Hi, and welcome to FlowForma and AC Immune session. We're now going to talk about how process automation cured process pains for AC Immune with speed and flexibility. And today we'll be joined by Ilker, who is a SAP manager at AC Immune. Maybe.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Ilker. I'll let you introduce yourself, actually, if you could.
Sure, Paul. Thank you for having me here to help and explain our experience as AC Immune by using the FlowForma process automation. I'm looking forward to the update together with you.
You're very welcome. And just to introduce myself, my name is Paul Stone. I work for a company called FlowForma, who are a vendor in the DPA process automation space. And we're here today to talk about how AC Immune use that system to deliver valuable results into the business. So today we're talking about AC Immune, a major pharmaceutical provider who have implemented FlowForma, a no-code process automation tool, and to deliver results into the business. And we're going to talk about those results and how those results were achieved, what AC Immune set out to do at the outset, and the process and journey that they went through to achieve what they did with those results. So we're going to go through a series of questions, and Ilker is going to talk about those topics. And the very first question on your list is, Ilker, could you tell us a little bit about AC Immune and your role there in the organization?
Sure, Paul. If I can start with AC Immune, let me start with AC Immune actually. So we are a small biotech located in Lausanne at the EPFL Innovation Park. And we are solely focused on, we are a research and development company focused on finding the cure for Alzheimer's disease. Wow. So everyone in the company, we day and night, we're together with IT, together with business, together with our scientists. There's only one passion to run the research program for finding the cure for Alzheimer's diseases or generally neurodegenerative diseases. Now, my role in the company, I've been here, this is my second year, moving into the third year, but I have 25 years of IT experience. Recently, I was the global design lead for the SAP and ERP landscapes in the Nestle company. And I joined here about 2.5 years ago. Here, my role is, I've also implemented the ERP here. I'm responsible for SAP. And on top, we have a business service management platform, which I'm helping the company operate with. This business service management platform helps the business to optimize, digitize, and automate internal and external processes. And I work as a partner to the functions who need help in this area.
That's very interesting, a very wide-ranging role covering a lot of different areas. So I guess that leads us on to our second. Yeah, that leads us on to our second question. So in that wide-ranging role, what pain points did you identify, and what motivated AC Immune to look for process automation tool?
Sure, Paul. I mean, once we implemented the ERP functionality, of course, the journey does not stop for any size of a company, I feel. So the initial challenges we identified was the HR group wanted to implement an internal process, which is called the onboarding in HR and recruitment process. And a couple of other internal departments wanted to enhance their process experience with the user community. So we identified HR first that needs some form of an automation to help them with their processes. And at the same time, in the ISIT department, we were saying, okay, from now on, we do not want to, make a requirements, wait for a development, have it tested, and then send back and get these things in place in a month or 2 or 3 months. So we said we need to start looking for smart approaches because we are a small and a fast company that can not only digitize the process but also empower our users to be able to develop such solutions or enable such solutions. This was the second challenge we were internally having, and we looked for simplicity and speed in terms of tool set or approaches in the market, and we looked for mainly we aimed for no-code automation solutions. That's how we got introduced to FlowForma.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And it's interesting you went for HR as a first point of call because what we find in our customer base is that that's a very common thing that many HR systems, while they may have some functionality in them, they're often not aligned with the needs of the business. And especially with companies like yourself who are quite agile, that you need the ability to change and adapt and make sure your
Exactly,
onboarding, yeah, is
exactly,
onboarding is compliant
exactly,
with the
exactly.
standards. Yeah.
Unfortunately, one size does not fit all, and we are
No.
in this situations. That's why we need the agility and the adaptability quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly I take your point as well about the time frame aspect of it as well, where you get a traditional system developed, it takes, months and months, and you have to go through a specification and then vendor delivers to you and then maybe it's wrong or maybe it's right and there's so many iterations. So
True,
having a some kind of agile system that can actually work and allow you to build something that matches your business needs and
true.
changes quickly over time, yeah, helps a
This
lot.
also helped our people a lot to be very close to the process because they
Yeah.
were developing it themselves, and day by day they realized even, I'm sure they even further improved the process while they were, hands-on developing it together with the tools. This is my
Oh,
observation
absolutely.
during the implementation.
Yes, well, it's interesting you say that because one of our lines is that one of the big things you get out of digital transformation is education. You actually understand how you operate better, and you can refine it as you go through that process. So yeah, that's
Yes,
great to hear. It's really good to hear. It's a big side
yeah,
benefit. Yeah,
we're very happy with the first results.
that's great. So I guess on to our next question, which is what were your requirements for a process automation tool when you chose to go forward with that?
Yeah, I think our challenge is a little bit building the foundation for the requirements here,
Yeah.
but specific requirements is obviously, small company building on the digitization foundation. I need to mention here we are a Microsoft Office 365 customer, so
Mhm.
whatever we do in the future, we look back and check ourselves, are we leveraging our investments? So first requirement was, could we enable something on top of our platform, which is the Microsoft Office 365? Now, FlowForma is native to this platform and runs on the Office 365 toolset or the platform and the SharePoint and etc. The second requirement was that we knew we needed automation, but we needed to clarify that this automation was on the process automation and not necessarily
Right. Yeah.
robotic automation.
Yeah.
So the requirements naturally started coming to us after our investigations that procurement, human resources, IT, ourselves, and quality assurance teams wanted to further improve their experience to their internal communities by developing their internal processes and automating their internal processes.
That's really interesting because a lot of people jump straight to RPA and they think RPA is going to be the panacea solution that solves everything for them. But truth of it is, it works very well in certain scenarios, but then for many other scenarios, you still have people collaborating together, working
True,
together on business processes, and
true,
you need something to
true,
help manage that.
true.
Yeah.
We actually went through a step of a internal education of a what's the difference between like a digital process automation or an RPA, robotic
Oh,
process
very good.
automation,
Yeah.
which helped.
Yeah, it would help a
I mean,
lot when you actually see the scenarios that work for each. They're quite different, but
true.
very complementary, by the way. I think you can use the two of them together in certain scenarios. Works very
Certainly,
well.
certainly,
Mm.
certainly, and I'm sure we will. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Just a little bit there about the diagram on the right. It was about FlowForma and how it's constructed, and just to say that Ilker made a point that they use Office 365 and FlowForma sits inside that environment. It saves all the information that you capture in the workflow in SharePoint Online, and It can handle documents and tasks as well as workflow and data. It also captures data as well. So it kind of tries to cover all bases and do it in a innovative way, which is a very business developer, no code focused tool to help you actually work ideally without any input at all from your IT department. We might talk about a little bit about that later on.
Sure.
Okay, so on to question 4. So can you tell us about some of the processes that AC Immune actually automated in the first instance with FlowForma?
Sure, Paul. Well, I can already say, the HR onboarding process is already live. We're happily onboarding new members as they come. It's been live since a month now, and we're seeing a good experience and a good feedback from our HR partners. We have immediately after the first month, actually after the first 2-3 weeks of the go live, we started pipelining the other processes, including other departments. Now, currently, we have the offboarding started, the offboarding, the HR recruitment that have started together with the HR group. They are developing as we speak. And mind you, when I say they are developing, there's minimum IT involvement. So this is
I
an
was going to
interesting
ask you
part.
that, yeah.
Yeah. So this is the digitization part, right? So how
Yeah.
we empower them to be able to do most of their process
And
automation. Certainly, there are areas where we can help them with the technicalities, but most of the work is done by the power users, I must say.
that's great
Similarly,
to
in the
hear.
IT, yeah. Similarly, in the IT, we will implement change management and the ticketing tool. This would be a replacement of another tool, including moving to FlowForma, because we believe we'll have a better experience. And the procurement members are starting with their supplier onboarding as we speak. This is where we are today. This list is not limited to what it is here, but I'm sure in the next coming months or 2022, we'll have more processes that helps the AC Immune company.
It's great to hear that. And just Ilker, in terms of getting people up to speed and so on with that, you've obviously got your business people actually configuring processes. They're getting results pretty quickly. How was that achieved? Is it a case of did you train them yourselves, or did you use FlowForma's training resources, or how did you make
So
them?
yeah, we used the, how can I say, the starter pack that
Oh, the Sure Start
FlowForma
thing.
enabled, the sure
Yeah.
start thing. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. So this pack enabled us and the power users to quickly understand the ease of use of the platform. And I very much leveraged it together with the power users to be able to develop but separately, I used the Sure Start pack also to quickly increase our technical knowledge so that we could
Fine.
on a daily basis help our power users. That was the approach. So we
That's
were
really
having quick results with the development cycles or the implementation cycles.
That's really interesting there, because you mentioned something that actually a number of our clients have followed the same approach, where they've basically had their business users trained up, supported by the vendor, in this case FlowForma, and also they've separately had the IT users trained up as well. And the IT users end up supporting the business users in the
Mm-hmm.
development of the flows
Mm-hmm.
and the processes. So that's a really interesting approach. That's kind of what we would call the center of excellence approach, where you're setting up one or two or three people in the IT department as kind of as experts that can be called on for
Yeah,
when business developers actually build out the
exactly.
solution.
Yeah. Certainly,
But
on the technical parts, we need to be more experienced to be able to help them,
mm,
but we cannot leave them alone. So they were, I think, the Sure Start program helped us a lot there achieve our initial results.
yeah, that's great. And I know from speaking to you in the past that those end users were, some of them were very enthusiastic and got hold of the system and just went to town
Yes,
and started building out things. Yeah,
yeah,
and
which is a
that's
good
great to
sign.
hear. It's a good sign, and people are being creative, and what I always say to people is let the people be creative, let the business users be creative, and build what they like, and just keep an eye on it, and you might find a few gems in there. Certainly, some
True,
customers we
true.
find. You know,
True,
they
true,
digitize kind of a
true.
lot at scale, and then
True.
they'll find the odd nugget where there's suddenly a massive
Yeah.
performance
I,
improvement.
I think it's yeah, Paul. I think it's related to the responsive of the platform we're talking about, right? So
Yeah,
my experience for this size and the future volumes that we have, they are having a good response to what they are thinking or ideating in their mind,
mm, yeah,
and they are quickly getting that into, how can I say, action
yeah,
that may iterate more innovative thinking at that time. I think this
yeah.
is key. So then maybe the difficulty on us is when do you stop so that you could have some,
That
version that
that is
that
a
should
hard.
run.
That's the hardest decision sometimes. When do you stop, right?
It could be.
Yeah, I totally get that, and that's something we can't help you with. You got to decide yourselves, I guess, when to stop innovating.
True.
But no, I think that's fantastic. You know, the fact that it's a creative platform, so the people are actually being creative with their processes. They're not being restrained, and in the time it would take for a person to communicate requirements to an IT person, they can actually build a system, like a fully
So
working
by that
system.
time, definitely, I would agree with you, Paul.
Definitely right. Even like a lot less in certain cases.
Yeah,
So it's putting that kind of creative ability into the hands of people, and just seeing what they produce. And but all kind of innovations. Some of them work, some of them won't. But you know what? Most of them will. So
that's
you'll
yeah.
always get a benefit back out of it,
I mean,
and you get that education spin-off, I think, as well. So you're getting people to think about how they work, think about how they
exactly,
execute their
exactly.
process.
Yes,
So
exactly. I
benefits,
can very
benefit all the way.
honestly say, the initial business process requirements and what we are running is definitely different, but in good terms because
Yeah,
we've agreed to a better experience, and the platform helped me and helped the HR community to safely implement this. So
it's great.
I'm quite excited to move forward with the further processes.
That's great. That's great, Ilker. So we'll get on to question 5. Time's passing on. So what
Yeah,
results have AC Immune SA realized from process automation? So a little bit of overlap, I know, but maybe you could fill us
sure,
in on some more detail.
sure. Well, if I start with the ISIT part first, I could say now we have a self-service automation platform, where we can onboard a function, teach them how to use it, and they can automate their processes 80 to 90%, or sometimes 100%, which is perfectly fine for us.
Great.
And
Yeah.
we're saying it's self-service automation, but it comes with the speed and the flexibility also. So it's very easy to develop, very easy to govern with your governance functions within the platform, and
Mm,
very easy to deploy. That is helping the ISIT department a lot. We do not need to invest in such area, but rather let the tools and the approach of the process automation help us there, and the support functions. From the functional side, I would see that they are more empowered and they can do without IT interference or IT in
mm,
between what they wish to do. And we can certainly meet again for various technicalities, especially in integration parts, maybe. But I think they are more digitized and in terms of creating their processes, maintaining their processes, and improving their processes. And also, I feel that they are more empowered and they can discuss without IT how much, to what capability or to what next version of the capability they can improve to. These results are important because we will be jointly uh, getting good results based on these results, I believe.
yeah, that's really interesting, and it aligns well with other clients as well who come back with the same kind of feedback. To say basically once once business users understand the system and start innovating, they really like that feeling of ownership. It's their baby. So when they're building out their
Exactly.
process, it's their solution. And that really helps them and drives them to actually make it better. And I love what you were saying as well about the collaboration aspect of it as well, where they're talking between themselves, without IT, defining that
Yeah,
process, making more improvements to it, and you don't need IT to help them necessarily, except sometimes on occasional technical query, that kind of thing. Like
that's
we
fine.
have a
Exactly.
yeah, like we have a very large company in the UK who've built out, oh, I think it's around 400 processes now, and they
Oh
have
wow.
they have a business developer team, and they're supported by IT. But even with that massive number of processes and large business developer team, they use less than one full-time IT person to support the whole crowd. It's quite amazing
Wow.
that you don't
You
have
see,
to get too involved once the snowball starts rolling, you know. So
this
yeah,
is
that's
exactly
very
the snowball effect. I think that's that's a good one.
yeah. So I think that's great, and you know what it means as well is that just for the audience here, that the return on investment in tools like FlowForma, um, you know, it's the difficult thing, the hardest thing is to get started, but once you get started and build some momentum, the return on investment just grows and grows over time. Um, so it's yeah, it's a platform that really supports that. Okay, maybe we'll go on to question 6.
Sure.
So this one, our last question of the day, process automation demands automation of hundreds of processes. What's next for AC Immune? So there's always processes to automate, right? There's always new things to be done. So what are you doing next, Ilker?
Sure. Of course, it's, we will automate various processes. It's about which ones will bring value to the company and which ones will bring speed and effectiveness to us. So we will scale this to the functions as needed. Our internal campaign is running as we speak. Remember, we started 1 month ago with the onboarding, and now with the other processes being implemented, it will not stop there. We will see other examples coming up as people see the results and the experience of using and developing the platform. The other interesting part, or the next important part for me and for the company, I believe, is integrating FlowForma to other sources of data. When I say other sources of data, I mean master data. So many companies like us, they will have their ERP solutions or other solutions. It's important for FlowForma and us to integrate, to the data sitting in SAP, to the data sitting in Viva, so that we could build and enrich the processes with the data there and reduce any data duplicates or data integrity. So, and I know we're working with you, Paul, me and you,
Oh,
with the integration of SAP. So this is the next coming. It's not to replace SAP, I must say, but it's to enhance our processes with the enriched data, and it will give us certainly very good speed there.
yeah, that both of those are very interesting. I think the digitizing at scale piece, I think you've hit an important point there at the very beginning where you were saying that you know, every process that you automate, you'd have an expected return on that. Like, is it worth automating, basically?
True.
And it's good to have that kind of governance in place that says, you know, okay, this is a new idea, yeah, but is it actually going to bring a lot of value into the company? And it may or may not. So it's a good point to, you know, to scan those ideas that are coming through and say, okay, well, this one, yeah, that's got a big potential, but that one there, not so much. Like
Yes, and it
we
helps
do
us prioritize.
helps us prioritize, absolutely. Sure, that's exactly what we do in terms of our own internal ideation process. So when people come to us with ideas for extending the product, we constantly develop our product and we release monthly releases with new features, etc. And when people come in with new ideas, as you did, Ilker, in terms of SAP integration, you know, we put that idea towards a board and the product board decides whether it has enough value or not. And then if it has enough value, we push it forward. So that's one of the things that we're doing in terms of the SAP Business by Design integration, where we've built out what we call business rules that actually will interact through web services with SAP and so on. So it's you know, it's pretty much any company who's has an innovation program takes this approach where they evaluate the innovation. If it's a good innovation, push it forward. If not, work on something more important. Set priorities, just like you said, Ilker. And yeah, so yeah, in terms of integrations, that's just to finish on that, like it's definitely an area that we see as a priority in our product. So we are increasing the methods that you can use to integrate with different systems. So we integrate via Logic Apps, for example, to over 300 applications, but also we have bespoke integrations that will integrate to bespoke systems, and then we have integrations like the one we're building to integrate to SAP Business by Design, which will also work with many other systems as well. So yeah,
Yes,
integration is
exactly.
definitely a key point, and your point on master data is absolutely a very strong one that we see in lots of clients who want to standardize on their data. So having that standardized data source that you can integrate with makes so
Yes,
much sense. Yeah.
it's important for the data landscapes and the data integrity in the landscapes.
Because at the end of the day, I suppose, okay, we haven't really talked about this at all, but at the end of the day, you would be expecting to get some quality reporting out of all of this, quality
For
analytics.
sure,
Because,
for sure.
yeah, because one of the big advantages, of course, of digitizing your processes is you're capturing lots and lots of data, not just on process performance, on all the details of, let's say, the employee onboarding process and
Yes,
so on. And you want to
exactly.
build dashboards and reporting at the back end of that. So
Yes.
having that
I mean,
standardized master
I
data
yeah,
is
yeah.
great.
I didn't mention, but I mean, we have explored and we are using the Power BI integration,
Great.
and
Yeah.
we didn't roll it out, but I can see that with our HR business partner, we've seen the version running already. I think she's already putting it in her pipeline, so it's the next thing to roll out for HR. We just need to have
That's
some data to
that's
to
great. Yeah. Once you get the data sorted out and get the process
yeah,
right and so on, and the next
yeah,
step is
yeah,
getting those good
yes,
reports, because that's certainly from a management perspective where the real value is having that
true,
accurate data all of a
true,
sudden, where in the past you
true.
might have been working off a spreadsheet or something, having
Yeah, we're
detailed
done
accurate
with
data.
that now.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. So I think we might move on to some questions and answers. So we've had a few questions come in from the audience. So what we'll do is just check here. Um, so maybe the first one, if I could, I've put it towards you, Ilker, it's how long does it take to digitize a process with FlowForma process automation? So I guess it's as long as a piece of string, you don't know, but maybe you could give me some indication.
Uh, well, I can give a correct answer to, or a very, how can I say, exact answer to this one, because specifically I measured the HR onboarding process, from day one when we
Oh,
introduced
okay.
the team to the Sure Starter program. And in between, we had a change of roles. These things can happen. That's
Yeah.
perfectly fine. But after 22 or 23 hours of, meetings together with FlowForma or internal, it's not just the FlowForma meetings, we were able to deploy to production. Now, how can you translate this? You could say, 3 people, 23 hours, but it's 20 hours of work together
Wow.
via
Yeah.
meetings, and we were up and running with the processing. And
That's
remember, we had no information before, so I'm
that's
thinking in
incredible.
the next round of processes
Yeah.
will be much faster.
That's incredible. I mean, just from scratch, from literally zero, to get
Yes,
that far so quickly, that's
yes,
fantastic.
yes. And
Um,
the
that's,
duration is different, of course. The duration is
mm,
like it's been, we started mid-August and we went live
mm,
for the end of September.
yeah,
But the true
that
effort was the measure I made when I mentioned about 23 hours.
that that is really, really interesting. Exactly, because people look at the duration and the amount of effort is a different thing, and 23 hours is really
Sure.
stunning. Um, and the
I think
duration,
as
obviously.
precise as I can get,
Oh, yeah, that's good enough for me. I think in terms of the duration, it's an interesting one, right? So we have like other clients obviously who put the system live, and the duration really varies. And it's because maybe the process isn't very well defined at the start and there's lots of
possible,
stakeholders
possible.
involved and they have arguments. you know?
Possible.
So people are people, and you have to get agreement for everybody, and that sometimes takes time.
True.
But it's great to see that it was basically put together in such a short amount of time. And and of course the agility of the platform kind of caters as well for getting people's agreement, because you can change it so quickly and easily, you know, if people don't
Well,
want to adopt, you know.
yeah, most of the time this effort was spent on changing and delivering the next version. So,
Oh,
and I found
perfect.
that a great experience.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't about changing requirements and sending over and waiting for results. It was,
Yes.
immediate results effect.
Just do
I
it right
found
now.
that very interesting. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so next one is what are the technical requirements for using FlowForma process automation? Okay, well, I guess I'll answer that one. It's the only prerequisite for FlowForma is that you have SharePoint Online or Microsoft 365, Office 365 as it used to be called. And the reason for that is simply that FlowForma saves all the information inside SharePoint. So it saves your data and your workflow and your documentation and so on inside SharePoint by default. Now, of course, you can use integrations to store it somewhere else as well if you want to. In fact, the system can automatically dump out data to SQL. But just to say that in terms of technical requirements, you have to have SharePoint Online, and then you're using a browser or our mobile apps to access your data and access the workflows. The next one is for Ilker, and I think you're best placed to answer this. So what are your 3
Sure.
tips for user adoption? So getting the users to use the system.
So one part I can say for the functional members,
Mm,
make sure you use the Sure Start program, because that's your real accelerator, and that helps
okay.
with very much with the quick adoption, because everybody understands very quickly the capability of the platform. The second tip I would give is a little bit about internal. It's about, if you could run your process development cycle in a hackathon style, bring the process
Yeah.
people, bring the platform people, bring the IT together, and see what you can do in an hour, in 2 hours,
Mm,
and agree that you have made a progress to the process implementation, and that really helps, improving within each cycle. The third one is, doing everything automated, and the adoption style and the sure starter, it doesn't stop. Nothing stops us from testing. Testing is still important.
yeah.
Make sure you do the user acceptance testing and you have a governance
Yes.
platform in place to finalists check off the testing. I would, out of my mind, I would go most important to these 3 tips.
That's great. And I've got another one here that because you touched a little bit on procurement earlier on, I guess, and it's asking, could I enable my suppliers to input processes digitized with FlowForma? I'll tell you what, I'll take that one very quickly,
Sure.
because I know that Ilker is still working in that area. But yeah, there's a feature called Engage in FlowForma that allows you to involve external parties. So, you know, your suppliers, for example, could fill in an application to become a supplier onboarding. So you can use so your external resources can actually access the system as well, to complete one step, let's say, in a process. You can also do it in an anonymous way as well. So there's various options there. So let me just move on and quickly, maybe we just have time for maybe one more question,
Sure.
where what we'll do is we kind of answered this already, but processes often need changes. Could I make these changes in-house with the FlowForma tool? Well, I guess in-house means
Absolutely.
not
Yeah.
using IT, I suppose. Yeah.
Ourselves, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So our experiences, yes, processes change, and they can change. It's a matter of agreement when to do the change and how to deploy the change. But making the change, the auditability of the change, who made the changes to the process, the tool has enough capabilities to help us there, and also safely deploy the change to the production side of FlowForma that we have defined in our governance. We found adequate tools and approaches within the toolset provided by FlowForma to help us there. As you can imagine, auditability in our industry is utmost importance.
Really cool.
Any process, anything change. This was one of our top requirements when we were onboarding with FlowForma.
That's great. And one very, very last quick one. So you mentioned the prioritization of processes. Do you have any tips in relation to how you might prioritize?
Okay. How to prioritize. We touched on this a little bit before. Yeah. I would go for it's a choice with everyone. I would go for quick implementation and high impact processes immediately.
I like the sound of that.
That helps us progress to the more challenging ones, but we deliver value along the way.
That's great, Ilker. Well, we're almost out of time, so maybe if we can move on to the last slide, just to say that if you want to try out FlowForma, you can very easily. We have a website, please go to it, full of information, full of case studies. Also, we have the ability to trial FlowForma, so you can try it out before you buy, because some people don't believe it's no code, don't believe it's so easy. So please try it out and go to FlowForma website and contact us through that, and we'll set you up with a trial. Okay, that's great. One final thing is, if you want to hear about more experiences with FlowForma, independent views, you might also consider going to G2 Crowd, where we have many independent feedback pieces from our client base. That's great. Well, thank you very much, Ilker. That was very interesting, and look forward to speaking with you again on a future webinar.
Likewise, Paul. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.